Welcome to another episode of Nat Bauer Brews. My name is Andy. I'm a home brewer and beer lover based in Cardiff in South Wales, and Nant Bauer is the name of the area where I live. It's also the name of my tiny little kitchen-based brewery. Nant Bauer is a Welsh phrase. It means big brook or big stream, and rather cheesily I like to think of this podcast as like a big stream of wonderful stories and great people all loosely linked to beer. And today I'm really excited because usually I do these interviews over a video call, but you can tell by the slightly kind of echoey sound that I'm out and about. I am in Swansea and I am at the home of Drop Bear Beer Company, and I'm talking to one of the co-founders, Joelle Drummond. Joelle, how you doing?
Hiya, yeah, I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you for letting me come here. So, the first thing I did when I came in here, I said, congratulations, because it just looks so amazing. And your story to have gone from saucepan to this massive industrial brewery in, 5 years? Less than 5 years?
Just under 5 years.
Just under 5 years. It's an incredible story. Like, how do you reflect on how far you've come so quickly?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I don't have a lot of time. But yeah, I think there are certainly moments. For example, just before you arrived, I was taking a walk around the brewery, and it's 16,000 square feet internally. And, you see your team working away, working on the canning line, getting, 6 pallet orders going to Canada. And you just think, wow, how did this happen? And you have this kind of cheesy montage play in your head and get a little bit emotional for a moment. But it really has been an absolute roller coaster, cliche as that sounds. But anyone who owns a business or runs a brewery knows that's very much the case.
Was this always where you wanted it to go? Was it just like, we'll just keep growing?
100%. I think people often think, oh, well, did you actually think it would become this thing? And I think Sarah and I always felt very strongly about making Drop Bear an international brand. We never wanted it to just be something very small. We knew it had potential. So literally at that first conversation at our kitchen table in our 1-bedroom flat in Mumbles, we said, by year 5, we're going to have a brewery. We had no idea what scale the brewery would be. We definitely didn't think it'd be this big. So I will say that, but it was always on the cards. And I am really happy that we kept to that first conversation and dream.
I love that drive, that vision, because it kind of gives you something to work towards, right? If you're already thinking, right, 5 years time, we're going to have our own brewery, then it just keeps you going on that journey. But there's so many things I love about this brewery, this company, and about you guys. Obviously, the fact that it's homegrown right here in Wales, and I think really kind of leading where the beer scene is going, not just in Wales, not just in the UK, but internationally. Like, you guys did exactly the right thing at exactly the right time. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think our timing was pretty impeccable, actually. And we were in a little bit of a rush, I won't lie. We had the initial idea in October 2018. By June 2019, we were in the market with 2 award-winning products. So we didn't give ourselves a lot of time, but we just knew there was this great window of opportunity, and we had complete faith in our idea. Great timing, great idea, if I do say so myself.
And I'm sure everyone listening will know what Drop Bear do, but I'll just kind of spell it out anyway. You've got 4 0.5%, so low alcohol or no alcohol. You've got a lager, you've got a stout, you've got an IPA, and you've got a pale ale.
Yes.
And, you have basically grown at such a rate because you timed it perfectly for this rise in demand for low and no alcohol beer. And it's all brewed right here in South Wales. As you say, it's international and you're growing all the time. So when did you know, right, we're onto something with low and no alcohol, that's where we want our little niche to be?
Well, it was actually my business partner and wife, I'll give her a shout out, Sarah, who had the idea. So Sarah took a break from drinking. I joined her because living together, it just wasn't quite the same sitting there drinking on my own. And she initially proposed to me, what if we created an alcohol-free brewery? And I said, that's ridiculous. No one's going to buy that. Even though I felt personal demand as a consumer for that product, I didn't think there was big enough scale. But ironically, that day I drove to work on my own, and the radio was talking about the rise in low and no beers. And I thought, wow, that's a weird sign from the universe, potentially. Went away, did a bit of research and realised, okay, there's actually huge potential here. There aren't many players in the market, and there's certainly no one doing what we would like to do within the market. That was kind of the first indication, but I think the turning point really for us was when we tasted our first ever brew. So we did the first brew, it took us 14 hours, it was an absolute nightmare. We had no faith that it would turn out decent. But we waited a couple of weeks, took our first sip, and it tasted good. And we were like, wow, if we can do this with just a 10-litre saucepan from Morrison's, no experience, no money, what can we do if we properly give this a go? And it really just escalated from there. And from that point onwards, it was 100% our focus.
And the little gap you spotted was that no one was really combining craft and low and no, were they?
No, they certainly weren't. It was mostly world lagers. You know, even Brewdog only had one, and that was Nanny State. And I think back then that wasn't too great. And there were a couple of brands out there just doing kind of ales. But again, we'd seen and experienced and enjoyed this massive surge in alcoholic craft beer and all the excitement and innovation that had come along with that. And we thought, well, there's all this growth in alcohol-free. Why is no one bringing that growth of craft and excitement of craft over to alcohol-free and kind of just skyrocketing it, really? So that's what we tried to do.
I guess because low and no had been an add-on to traditional brewers' ranges, that, we better do something. Yeah. Whereas you guys, it was your full focus. So that was just the different approach that really worked, maybe.
Yeah, and I always compare it to bread, which sounds a bit boring. But, you know, you can buy bread in a supermarket. It's fine, it does the job, you can make a sandwich. But if you go to an artisan bakery and you get the most beautiful sourdough loaf, it's just so much better. Yeah. It's just so much different. The love, care and attention that product has received is just off the scale. A lot of the macro brewers have an alcohol-free option, but do they love it? Do they put all their resource into it? No.
Yeah, that's true.
It's 100% of what we do. All of our money goes into researching, innovating and perfecting the alcohol-free pint. So
cool. Right, so as a home brewer myself, I want to revisit the saucepan, okay? Yeah. So that your first ever brew, and the story goes you kind of went to the library, got loads of books out on home brewing, and that was a low alcohol one. Was it the first ever one, or was it a standard brew?
It was low alcohol. I don't think it's as low alcohol as it should have been, realistically.
It's hard to do as a home brewer, isn't it?
It is hard to do as a home brewer, and I think we hadn't perfected our method. I think what we tried to do was the heat removal method. Right. There are too many variables with that, so we basically produced a very low alcohol stout, but there was still more alcohol than you'd want.
So what was it, like a 1 or 2 or something like that? Or?
Yeah, like a 1.5, I think. Okay. And then we tried to remove the alcohol through evaporation. It was such a cold day because it was winter. We were in this tiny, ramshackle apartment down the Mumbles. So we had all the windows and doors closed. We had an electric induction hob. It was taking ages. So we were just trying to make the room as hot as possible. And then after a while, me and Sarah started to feel pretty drunk, and we realised we were just inhaling pure ethanol.
Of course, yeah.
So it did remove a lot of the alcohol, but to do that on a commercial scale, and especially with contract brewing, which was our initial production method for, 4 years really of our journey, every time we moved brewer, that would just be such a headache. And people don't really want to do it, and it's not as good. So the method we have now, it's very much treating the product as a traditional beer. So we use the same ingredients, we just tweak certain temperatures, certain timings and certain quantities, and that's very much it.
So you're not brewing an alcoholic beer and then removing the alcohol. You're starting from scratch with a brew that's going to come out low alcohol.
Yeah, definitely. That's what we do. That changed before we ever went to market. We just thought that might be the easiest option, but we were wrong. And I think doing it the way we do it, we take into account any kind of shortcomings that we could come across. So we deal with that at stage 1 so that we can end up with a product at stage 5 that has maximum flavour and mouthfeel.
Are you kind of unique in terms of how you're making your low alcohol beer? Do most other brewers of low alcohol do it a different way?
I'd love to say I'm unique. But no, I think there are certainly more brewers using our method now. They tend to be the more specialist alcohol-free brewers, again, because they're putting a lot more research and focus on it. A lot of the macros still use other methods like reverse distillation. There are, unfortunately, some beers out there, alcohol-free beers, that aren't brewed at all. For example, just carbonated water with syrups.
Really?
So essentially like fancy squash.
Really?
Yeah. There aren't too many of them these days because I feel like they do get called out, and because you can taste the difference. Yeah. Some of the ones that are really worty,
right,
really, really sweet. If you've tried our beers, you know that they have that crispness that you'd expect in a beer. Yeah, we're not unique, but I think there's certainly room for other macros to improve.
Yeah. I'll take you back to when I first had a drop beer, which was I was in Aberystwyth, and I went to a restaurant there and not seen it before. Number one, I thought it was refreshing that there was a choice of 1 or 2 low alcohol beers on the menu. I was driving, so I went for it straight away, and I couldn't believe, I had to check that I'd actually ordered the right beer, because I thought, this tastes as though it's got more alcohol in it. Because obviously, you've tried low and no alcohol beers over time, and some of them, especially these ones you were talking about that are basically carbonated water with syrup, it's obvious from the first sip, you think this is, it's not quite as good, it's not quite the same. But I think it was the New World Lager that I had, and I was just, wow, this could pass for a proper lager. So yeah, I was kind of impressed straight away, and and that makes sense what you're saying now in terms of your starting point is different from the brewers who are maybe brewing their normal range and then doing a low alcohol version of a beer that already exists. You're starting from a blank page going, the end product is a high quality low alcohol beer, right?
Yeah.
It's a different way of looking at it.
Completely different. I'm so glad to hear that you liked it. And yeah, obviously doing my job right, if you couldn't tell the difference. Another thing to mention is yeast. I think a lot of brewers actually, even those who employ similar methods to us, use these lazy yeasts. They certainly seem to have their place. But for example, ours it's just a normal yeast.
Right. Okay.
It's an ale yeast. It's actually our house yeast now, so we have a wet yeast on site, so it's developing that signature drop beer flavour. And actually, that's been cropped from our first ever commercial brew back in 2019.
Oh, wow.
So it's been in a lab, it's been cleaned up, cultivated. So we've kind of like gone back to our roots.
Nice.
In many ways, having our brewery back in Swansea where we started, having the first ever yeast that we used. Again, I think a lot of people overcomplicate it. At the end of the day, we're just trying to make a good beer. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't use weird ingredients. You just want it to taste like a beer.
How's it been moving to this new facility where we are now in terms of maintaining the flavour? What's that challenge been like?
Yeah, we've done a lot of lab reports. It's been really important for us to at least have the same quality, if not have better quality. One of the issues with contract brewing is obviously controlling the consistency of your product. You just don't have that level of control. We haven't done too bad over the years, but it's been great. So the main difference really has been water. So that just comes down to water treatment. So it's not really been a big challenge, fortunately. We were brewing mostly in Yorkshire and in Surrey, so they had pretty good water where we were brewing. We've got great water here, but keeping lab reports on all those brews has been key, because the last thing you want is to move into a new facility, create all this hype and buzz, and then customers start saying, well, actually, your beer's not as good anymore. Yeah, we want it to be better.
I mean, it must be nice to be brewing in Wales now as your kind of home. That must be nice. I remember when I first started brewing, someone said to me, brewing is cleaning. And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, well,
yep.
You're just going to spend most of your time cleaning. Just based on what you just said about doing all the lab reports, for you guys, is now brewing basically science and data? Is that effectively what it boils down to?
Yeah, I like to say brewing is a careful balance of art and science.
Okay.
I think science dominates, though, especially with alcohol-free. You don't have the alcohol to protect the product, so we have to have the cleanest brewery, the most streamlined processes. Everything's got to be, slap bang on target, really. There's a lot of lab work. We have a lab on site. We also use external labs to validate our work. Cleaning, though, it very much is that.
It is, isn't it? Brewing is cleaning. Yeah, you've got to be... I think to be a brewer, you've got to take pleasure from making things clean.
Yeah.
You've got to just get into it and take the kind of therapeutic thing of taking this. And also, brewing is very messy. I didn't realise before I started brewing just how messy it is.
You need wellies.
Yeah, everything ends up covered in stuff, and you've just got to clean it all off, right? So I'm glad you feel my pain that brewing is cleaning. Now, okay, let's talk a bit more about where we are, because when I walked in here, and we're in... I guess it's an industrial unit in Swansea.
Yeah. This building's actually been a brewery for, I think, about 20 years. I think way, way, way before that, it was actually a car dealership. Okay. So not as exciting as beer, is it? Sarah and I were looking for a new home for Drop Bear since, as I said, it's always been on the cards, but we were actively looking from around 2020, 2021, I think it was, because we received a significant chunk of investment to establish the brewery, about £1.9 million. Wow. which sounds like a lot, but if you've ever set up a brewery, you know that goes very, very quickly. Steel is expensive, and you don't want to skimp on certain things, do you? So we explored loads of sites across Wales. We even looked in England. 1 or 2 days where we were getting so frustrated we even looked abroad. But I'm glad we were always very disappointed at the prospect of not bringing it back to Wales. It was always really important to us. Whilst Drop Bear isn't necessarily positioned as this like super Welshy beer brand, we are Welsh. We're really passionate about showing that being Welsh can look very different. You don't have to have a dragon on your can or your bottle.
So good to hear that.
Yeah, like Wales is so many different things, and we're so much more interesting, I think, and more multicultural these days, that to just think, oh, if it's got a daffodil or dragon, then I'm happy, but if not, then I'm not buying it. You know, so we really wanted to bring it home. So we actually approached the old owners. So the brewery wasn't for sale. And we just said, look, we want to buy your brewery. Would you be interested? And again, I think our timing was right. And she was like, yeah, actually. So we were in negotiations for close to a year. Really hard to keep that closed. I wanted to tell everyone I was so excited. And I am a blabbermouth. But it took us about a year. I think it was exactly a year when we got the keys from the first email we sent her.
Wow.
Which is crazy, actually.
I mean, I actually think that's quite quick. You know, in terms of how businesses can be, and just the complexity of transferring a site like this and all the things that go into it. So yeah, it is a long time, but also I think that's everything you do is quick, right? Yeah,
we're really impatient. Obviously you gotta have a balance, haven't you? You can't rush certain things, you know, you can't compromise on quality. But I think me and Sarah are very much doers. So if we know we want to get something done, if we know it's the right decision for the business, it's like, well, let's just do it then. You know, let's not faff about.
Okay, so right, that's the brewery sorted. So you've now got this. And presumably you could expand. I mean, I've just had a look around. You've got some drinking areas. You've got a tap room. You've obviously got the brew kind of set up, which is really nice and visible. So when you walk in here, because sometimes you go to a brewery, especially ones that are sometimes on industrial estates, and you go, hang on, where's the brewery?
Where's the actual brewery?
I can't see anything. Everything's just kind of behind panels and stuff. But this is very visible, isn't it? Was that part of the idea and how you wanted it?
Yeah, that's been a very conscious decision, I think, because we're alcohol free. One of the biggest concerns consumers have still is it actually beer? Is it real?
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I kind of understand it, because at the end of the day, we've all had a pretty bad alcohol-free beer at one time or another. So we're always coming at it from a kind of defensive point of view, trying to change their opinion on the market. So yeah, I think for us, we wanted someone to be able to walk in and immediately know this is beer. I don't care if it's alcohol-free, I don't care if it's alcoholic, this is beer. I can see the brewery, I can see the tanks, I can see the brewer hard at work, and that's very much what it is. So when you walk in, you've got the little shop, and then we actually knocked down a wall. Yeah, that was a fun day. It actually, we did have to knock it down because we found out it wasn't structurally sound, so that was concerning.
Yeah.
But we decided not to replace it. So that was quite a fun day where we were driving a forklift in and had people running through walls just to get it down. It did not want to come down, even though it wasn't structurally sound. But it's just so much more impactful.
No, it looks great when you walk in here and you've got the big tanks, and it looks like a brewery, feels like a brewery. Less about the building and more about the business strategy, because I think, obviously this is a beer podcast, but I run 2 businesses myself, and I'm just fascinated by your progress and how quick you go and you drive and stuff. Strategically, you've acquired another brand recently, so tell me about that.
Yeah, we're mad. No, I think, as I was explaining to you earlier, what we have seen and observed, and what we know is the growth in alcohol-free is actually driven by moderators or flexi drinkers, however you want to refer to them, which is people who do drink, just not all the time. So I think we've never preached from Drop Bear's perspective, and when we had the opportunity to acquire the Thomas Watkin brand, we thought, well, actually, this would be an interesting portfolio diversification, so that from a business perspective, we can keep our customers happy when they are drinking and when they're not. And as those 2 markets fluctuate, we can benefit from both those angles. The 2 brands stand very strongly alone and separate from each other, so you wouldn't necessarily know they're related. But again, I think it's been a hard couple of years with financial crisis, a war, COVID,
Doesn't sound great when you listen to
it
that.
hasn't actually been the best time to launch a business, but it's worked. So, you really need that resilience. And, we have Thomas Watkin, we do lots of contract brewing for other breweries.
Oh, really?
We actually package for the breweries. We make soft drinks on site for other drinks companies. So it's about keeping focus, but also making sure that you're protecting yourself from any market risks.
Was that part of the strategy of getting this new brewery that you own outright and is your building, that you can do all those things, like you can contract brew, you can make soft drinks, you can package, just gives you lots of different revenue streams, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think the initial idea 5 years ago definitely wasn't that. We weren't that switched on. We just were like, we want a brewery, we're a beer company, we should have a brewery. But because we had that significant investment, we knew that we were going to be able to scale so much more quickly, and we thought, okay, well, let's do that. The business is growing really strongly, but if something happened, because you never know, how are we going to protect ourselves? This is one of the ways. So diverse revenue streams, as you know, as a business owner, is key to success, really, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So you've done a few things with Thomas Watkin, haven't you? You've expanded the range and gone vegan, which is a great move as well. So rebranded a bit as well. So talk to me a bit about that.
Yeah, I'm from Swansea originally, so I was very familiar with Thomas Watkin growing up. One of my first jobs actually was a garden centre a couple of doors down. So I would drive past this brewery every weekend to go to work. I never imagined when I was doing my £3 an hour minimum wage job that I would one day own this brewery.
Wow.
And it is a really surreal feeling. But
well done.
Thank you. It really needed some work,
yeah.
From my point of view at least. We've seen breweries who have failed to adapt to a changing landscape. They're iconic breweries at times, and you see them go under or really suffer. And it would have made me really sad to see that happen to Thomas Watkin. So we thought, okay, well, what's working, what's not, what can we do to make it even more resilient and more attractive to consumers? So we've kept, for example, the core logo, but the branding itself, we've made it more consistent. There was a bit of a lack of consistency, so we've added in consistency, we've refreshed it, made it a bit more. It's kind of positioned between PBA and craft PBA now. So what we're hoping is we'll keep all the loyalists, the brand loyalists happy, but we'll bring in a new wave of consumers that are really going to help drive growth. Because we don't want to just keep it plodding along. We want to really give it a new lease of life. So I think the current branding now really attracts a younger demographic. And from a product perspective, yes, we made them all vegan because, again, it's very easy to do, so why not do it? Why kind of alienate consumers? We've got plans to look at gluten-free in the future as well. And we also, we changed the range. So when we took over, on the website, there were about 17 beers listed on there. And it's just too much. We didn't feel confident that with Drop Bear and the capacity that's taken up with Drop Bear, we could consistently deliver and have availability of 17 different beers. So we trimmed the range down to 5. So we kept 3 of the best sellers in small packs. So that's Magic Lager, Blodwyn and Cwrw Haf. And we've actually added in 2 completely new beers, factoring in what's driving market growth within alcoholic beer. So we all know IPAs. You've just got to have a solid IPA these days. So we've got Dragon's Keep IPA, and then we've got Miner's Pride, which is a stout.
You love stout, don't you?
Oh, I love stout, yeah.
Your first brew was a stout, now you've added a stout to Thomas Watkin.
I do, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because the stout is a kind of beer style that if you don't have people in the industry that love it, not that it would go, but it always feels like it's a lower priority.
Yeah,
but it's a brilliant style.
It really is, but I think that, times are changing. Apparently, what I was reading the other day is stout has never been more popular. Brilliant. And that has actually been driven by women.
Okay,
so great. I find that quite interesting. Yeah. And then I'm like, well, maybe I shouldn't be surprised because I've always loved stout. Yeah. I'm a woman.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
Maybe I'm not that weird and unique.
I've always found it weird that there aren't more beers in between stout and it feels to me, and in the brews that I've been doing, that you can either brew something really dark or you brew something really light, especially with the kind of pale ale kind of phenomenon. Mm-hmm. And there's, apart from a kind of, maybe an old English bitter that not many people are brewing now, or brown ale or something like that, there's not really much in the middle. And I find it weird that that is the case. So I think I always really like it when there is a darker beer added to a range. I also think a lot of people give up on stout because of Guinness. They just go, oh, well, that's the only stout you can probably have.
I personally think ours is better than Guinness.
Well, there you go. That's a bold statement. Yeah.
Yes. Well, actually, our alcohol-free stout, our bonfire stout for Drop Bear, was there was a write-up in Canada, which is our biggest export market. The people who wrote it up actually voted it higher than Guinness alcohol-free. So
there you go.
I've got to plug.
No, you should do. Yeah.
I think craft beer's had a big part to play in that. I think craft beer historically has focused a lot on hoppy styles.
Yeah.
New England IPAs, West Coast IPAs, and then you've had your imperial stouts and those kind of amber ales, red ales, old English bitters, things like that. What are viewed as the more traditional old man styles have kind of just slowly declined, which is a bit sad because
I love the old man styles. Maybe it's because I'm an old man.
Yeah, but I love them too, though. You know, I love craft beer. I love super hoppy things. I love crazy, weird, and wonderful things. But sometimes you just can't beat going into a really old British pub, thatched roof, roaring fire, and a locally made ale.
Yeah.
Just like a really nice, solid,
around 3.5-4% session.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I
nice big
agree.
pub meal.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
sorted.
Kept properly, cask with not too much head on it. You know, all that stuff is nice. It's good. Yeah. When you look at your website, and you know, obviously you've got the fun with all the kind of drop bear stuff. And I love the fact that you can report a sighting of a drop bear. That's a really nice touch. Does anyone ever do that?
Yeah. They do actually. I do check in every now and again because I've got this whole email automation set up so people get emails and things like that. So yeah.
You have had sightings reported?
Yeah. I have.
Brilliant. But if you go right to the bottom, there's two very clear missions to what you're doing. It's a kind of double-sided mission. And the one is to make great beer, low alcohol. But the other is to make the planet a better place as well.
Yeah.
Or at least not harm the planet while doing it. So I think it's really interesting that you've made that with the same weight as making great beer. Talk to me a bit about that.
Sarah and I as consumers feel very strongly about the planet. We live here, we want it to survive. So it was very natural for us when we started whatever business that it would always be front and centre and not just kind of something we had as a side note. We've always advocated that no matter what size or shape or industry of your business, there is always more you can do to try and just make life a bit nicer for everyone and the world a nicer place. That has scaled with us. So for example, when we started, we were operating out of this 1-bedroom apartment. We immediately got an electric car, we went paperless, signed up to this scheme called Ecology, which responsibly plants like 12 trees per month per employee, and then you support carbon offsetting projects, just like little things like that. And you know, now we're at the point where we're 5 years in, we've got the UK's largest alcohol-free brewery, and it's a carbon neutral brewery, and we're Wales's first B Corp brewery. So it's been really important for us to not say that as something that was important to us at the start and kind of keep our commitment to it at, you know, 2019 level Drop Bear. You know, we're at 2024 now, much bigger. And our impact is much bigger as well. I think consumers appreciate it. I think our customers, whilst they don't necessarily want to pay extra for it, they expect it to a degree these days. You know, if you see a brewery or any other company really that is doing something really negative towards society or the planet, I wouldn't buy it. So I wouldn't expect my customers to buy it either. So
yeah. No, that's good.
Yeah. And I sleep better at night. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's got to be part of it. You said earlier, you know, you had a big investment, and that's allowed you to, I guess, buy the brewery and expand and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to get your spreadsheets out and figures and ask you how much profit you're making, but, you know, I think a lot of people are scared to get into business because they feel like there's a lot of debt, there's a lot of risk. Is it going to work? You hear of businesses folding. You know, are you guys doing okay? Like, is it? I mean,
on a personal level.
Well, we know you're growing, but I mean, as business owners here, we both know growth doesn't always necessarily mean that you're going in the right direction. I know it's stressful running any business. Are you happy with the way things are progressing? Is it all going in the right direction? Yeah,
very, very happy. I completely get what you say. It's been, you know, scary 5 years. There have definitely been moments.
Yeah, you picked a bad 5 years to do it.
Yeah, lucky in some ways, unlucky in others. Yeah. So when we started Drop Bear, we were in our early mid-20s. The banks wouldn't touch us. Yeah. You know, they're like, who are these two random... We both look quite young as well, so they probably thought we were 18 years old in this 1-bedroom apartment trying to make alcohol-free beer. No way. No one was going to touch that. We actually both quit our jobs and we took out personal loans. And when I look back, I'm like,
that's ballsy.
Jeez, it is. And I'm like, I don't know if I'd have that confidence now. As you get older, you certainly get more risk averse, but we were just so convinced. It was not an option that this was going to fail. So we were like, okay, we're all in. So we did that. That helped us launch, but as soon as we launched, the demand was just so much higher than we expected.
Wow.
So we were immediately faced with two options. We could keep it slow and steady and small and just kind of try and make do, or we could try and scale this quickly. And you know what we did. So we immediately were like, okay, let's raise investment. So we've actually done 4 investment rounds now.
Wow.
We've raised close to £3 million in total. Which is
and
not...
that's stressful in itself, doing those rounds, right?
Is,
you talk to anyone who's done it, I mean, it sounds, when you say, oh yeah, we did an investment round, and go, oh right, people gave you money, that's great. You think, it's not easy, is it?
It's not, and I think as 2 young women in beer, it certainly isn't. But just generally raising investment. I think being based in Wales as well, sometimes there's this subconscious bias that people have that think Wales, okay, small, boutique, farm shop.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Which, okay, we do sell at farm shops, but we also sell in Ocado and Co-op and in supermarkets in Hong Kong. So, it doesn't have to be small. You need to give these brands opportunities to really scale. And I think that's an issue that we do face in Wales. Yeah, I'm really happy with how things have gone. The brewery was key to that. Our market, so alcohol-free beer, very much operates on an outsourced production model.
Right.
So most people contract brew, and the margins on that are just so small.
Yeah.
And then when you consider with alcohol-free beer, the marketing spend has to be so much higher because, first of all, you're competing against like Heineken, Peroni, Guinness. I don't have those budgets.
No.
And then also most people think alcohol-free beer tastes bad. So there's a lot more convincing, there's a lot more education. So you've got high marketing spend, really low margins. It's just not going to work long term unless you have a good network that's going to constantly pump money into you. And realistically, we didn't have that, and we never were going to. So we knew we wanted to make this a profitable, sustainable business, and the brewery has helped increase our margins tenfold.
Wow.
Overnight. So
amazing.
Very healthy, very happy. So the future's looking very exciting.
Well, hats off to you. I think it's such an incredible success story. There's so much I love about this place and what you're doing. Yeah, it's just brilliant, and it's brilliant to have it here in Wales as well. I really understand what you're saying about that. Sometimes that slight Welsh thing of, it'll be great, but it'll be small.
Yeah.
But there's no reason for that, is there?
No, there's just not. We'll list it, but let's just put it in the Welsh stores. It's like, but we have data, literal evidence that it sells more in England and more than your English brands. So why don't we put it in the English stores? Do you know what I mean? So it's something that we still come up against. We have a regional Tesco listing, but we have an English Co-op listing. We have a national Ocado listing. So it is getting there, but you just know it's just that bit harder for a Welsh brand.
Yeah. Shouldn't be though, should it?
No,
it shouldn't.
No. Another positive with Welsh, brand Wales, I guess, is that we have this perception of good quality and provenance, and I guess being a bit more environmentally friendly. So I think we just need to play on that and just keep knocking on the slate wall, as we like to call it, that divides us between all the English buyers. Take a sledgehammer to it, really, but
I love that. So what's next? I mean, the progress is so fast and the vision is so big. It feels like you've just been through a step change, right? Getting the brewery is just like a launch pad. So where do you want to go? Where do you want to go with this launch pad?
Well, our vision for Drop Bear is to become the leading alcohol-free craft beer in the UK.
Okay.
So essentially, the brewdog of alcohol-free.
Yeah.
That's what we'd like. But we would also
with a slightly better reputation, maybe.
Yeah. That goes without saying. No hate to brewdogs, will come after me. But yeah, I think growing our export markets as well. I think one of the beauties of the brewery is that we can be a bit more innovative and collaborative. So this year alone, we've got a number of limited editions and one really exciting collaboration brew scheduled in. So I'm really excited to share more about that over the coming months. Kegs as well.
Okay, cool.
So again, I think alcohol-free has grown so much, and sometimes you go to venues now and you actually have a whole alcohol-free menu, which is really nice to see, because why should you only have one option, you know.
Alcohol-free on tap, I think, is a big opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, I've found myself drinking pints of Lucky Saint when I can find it and thinking, well, why is that the only one on the bar?
Exactly, and why is it? And they're very, you know, London South East focused, so
Yeah.
really within Wales you rarely get anything. Yeah. So we did a soft launch of kegs over the summer last year.
Okay.
And they just flew out.
I bet they did.
They just flew out. We only did a small amount, but they've just gone. So next month we're hoping to hard launch our kegs, so they'll be permanently available, all 4 beers, to the trade.
Okay, and so what, we can expect to see that popping up in pubs in Wales, around the UK?
Yeah, around the UK, but I've got wholesale listings agreed within Wales.
Okay.
And also nationwide, so...
Brilliant.
Yeah, really,
that's massive.
Really thrilling. Yeah, it is. I think it's the next stage, because there's something different about going to a bar and ordering a pint.
Definitely.
And it's taking it to that next step of normality and inclusivity. So.
And presumably you serve off cake here in the tap room.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. So you can kind of come here and get that experience as well.
Yeah, and we've done tap takeovers. For example, in Head of Steam Cardiff.
Oh yeah.
We did a tap takeover, and that went really well. I think again, people are just so excited to see it on tap. It certainly has that novelty factor. And actually, you know, stout generally as a beer style doesn't sell that much. It's about 10 to 12% of beer sales, I think, total. But ours over-indexes massively.
Okay.
First of all, it is a great beer.
Yeah.
But secondly, I think, how many alcohol-free stouts can you really get? I know there's Guinness now.
Yeah.
Prior to that, one or two maybe?
Well, I couldn't think of it.
You get so many lagers, but when you see different styles out there, so that's key to us. You know, any new beers we do, it's like, okay, what can we add that's actually different to the market? Because that's what people actually want. They don't need another Heineken or Beck's.
No.
We've got enough of them.
So we did an interview with Stuart Elkington, head of Dry Drinker.
Oh yeah.
A few episodes ago, and he was talking about how if you go and drink on the continent, it's very different. You're fine to drive for a night out, and you would maybe start with an alcohol-free. You might target one beer in the evening that you would have, you know, that's a full strength beer, and then you'd be back on the alcohol-free.
Yeah.
Which is just not a way that we're used to drinking here. But I can see it happening now. I do it myself, where I go, actually, I want to drive tonight, so I'm not, and I know that I'm going somewhere or I'll bring some alcohol free with me, and I can have just as good a night without having any alcohol at all.
Yeah, at the end of the day, if it looks the same, tastes the same, smells the same, gives you that placebo effect, why not?
Yeah, that's the way forward, isn't it, I think?
Well, yeah, and I did that actually 2 Christmases ago, because I love my food. So on Christmas Day, I'm like in my element. I'm like, yes, how much can I fit in? So I eat as much food as I can, and there's always gin, there's beer, there's, you know, Bucks Fizz, everything. And do you know what? By 3 o'clock, I'm asleep. So I was like, you know what? I'm in my late 20s. I don't want to fall asleep like no man. You know, I need to change something. So I actually staggered it. So one Christmas, I did 1 drink on, 1 drop there, 1 drink on, 1 drop there. And I was awake the whole day, up into the evening, and I had such a nice time spending time with friends and family, because I was just like more present. Yeah. So, but I could still participate, and I still had a little bit of a buzz. So yeah, it's great.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, look, I think, again, I just want to say congratulations. I think it's brilliant what you're doing here, and I just, you know, wish you all the best for the future.
No, thank you. Thanks for popping by.
Massive thanks to Joelle and everyone at Drop Bear Brewing Company that I met when I went to Swansea and checked out their new brewery. They're doing great things, and they are really switched on in terms of what the beer scene is doing and their part in it, and they're really keen to be going places, and they're going to get there. So, you know, brilliant to see innovation, new business in beer, in the brewing scene, right here in South Wales. Inspirational stuff. Hats off to those guys. And I recommend you go and try their beers if you haven't. They just do a really good, solid range of non-alcoholic beers. You know, they tick all the boxes that you want them to tick. There's a lager, there's an IPA, there's a stout. You know, they are great beers. And support the no and low alcohol scene, support the Welsh scene. You know, there's so much to like there. Right, there's not loads for me to tell you about other than I'm going to keep making these episodes once a month. It's not always easy, but we can keep doing it, and we're going to keep discovering new stories, new people, good stuff around beer here in South Wales. I am off to Italy on holiday, so I'm going to try some interesting beers there, hopefully, and I will report back on that. Still not much brewing happening here, which I'm really sad about, but just very little time at the moment. And the time that I do have, I want to make sure we keep making the podcast. So that's my priority at the moment. But I am keen to get brewing as soon as possible. Look, I don't know what the episode is going to be next month, but there will be one. I'll make sure of that. And until then, the usual sign off of, till the next time we make a podcast episode of Nat Vara Brews, I know there's one thing I want to talk to you about. Just as I was about to sign off, I want to let you know that you may remember the episode we did a few episodes ago about the Miners' Arms in, is it the Miners' Arms in Nenthead? Anyway, you know the one I mean, the highest pub in England. And we heard the story of how you save a community pub, and their share issue is now open. So you can go and buy a share in that pub in Nenthead that they are trying to save. And by doing so, you will help them save it, and you will own a bit of that pub effectively. And I am definitely up for doing a bit of a Nat Vara Brews special up at the pub once they've got it up and running. And wouldn't it be great if you've bought shares as well and you could join me there? It'd be great to get as many listeners, contributors, people down there as possible. I think it might be a nice little party. So have a look for that. Have a look for Save Our Pub, Community, Miners' Arms, Nenthead. Google all that stuff and you will find it. And yeah, go and help them out. Okay, I'm going to get back to my sign off now. So until the next time we make a podcast episode, have a great life, be kind to each other, drink some lovely beer, and we'll see you next time.